In one of the most pivotal cases in decades for race relations in the United States, many people this morning are saying that justice has been done. The police officer who knelt on the neck of African-American man George Floyd and killed him has been convicted of murder. Security has been tight, particularly in Minneapolis, with so much emotion around this case. The verdict came down only a couple of hours ago, and so far the reaction has been passionate and peaceful. ABC correspondent Greg Jennett joins us now from Minneapolis. Greg, first of all, you were at the courthouse this morning. Explain to us where you are now.
Yes, we've snaked our way around downtown Minneapolis, Joe. Noisy but peaceful is a pretty apt description of what is effectively a celebration here in Minneapolis. 4 or 5 blocks away, and goodness knows how many still to go from the courthouse. But I imagine each and every person in this procession, a procession of celebration, would have been at the courthouse when that verdict came down a few hours ago. And much of the built-up angst and anger that had gripped this city and the state of Minnesota, if not the United States, it did evaporate in the moment that Judge Peter Cale's verdict was read out on behalf of the jury that he has instructed through the 3.5-week trial. And so it was that on all 3 counts, Derek Chauvin was found guilty. He faces a lengthy jail sentence now, and we'll round this corner here and keep going as we talk to you. But sentencing is still to come at a later time, and there's a palpable sense in which a lot of that grievance and injustice and hurt that the community has felt about racial inequality these last 11 months have, at least temporarily anyway, been set aside, because this clearly, demonstrably, was the verdict that they wanted.
And Greg, with these protests, they generally happen pretty organically. Are they headed anywhere in particular now or not?
I think we're following a similar route to a smaller procession yesterday, Joe, where it started at the same point where this one did, and that's outside the Hennepin County Government Centre, which, as I already explained, had the courthouse up on the 18th floor there in the downtown precinct. We're several blocks away. We're now sort of rounding the third side of a rectangle, or squaring the third side of a rectangle, and then perhaps making our way back towards the government centre offices there where the courthouse was. But there's a whole lot of cars following, a kind of a mobile demonstration, if you like, behind the pedestrians who we're with. And you'll see there the flags are fluttering, the trucks with their Black Lives Matter banners are unfurled, and the horns are blasting. It is not in any sense threatening, it is jubilation, really. Not everyone is convinced that, and the crowd here is coming to a bit of a standstill. Not everyone is convinced, as I was about to say, that this is the end of the road for the Black Lives Matter movement, or that policing across the nation is going to be transformed in the instant of this triple verdict of guilt on Chauvin. But they nevertheless tell us, Joe, that they feel that progress has been made. That sentiment is actually reflected by Ben Crump as well. Ben Crump has been a family lawyer, not only to the Floyd family, but also to the young man Dante Wright, the 20-year-old who was shot and killed by a police officer in the 3rd week of the Chauvin trial. So Ben Crump has kind of been enunciating or putting to his own words the sentiments, I think, of many of the people here. Let's have a listen to some of his analysis, remarks made after those verdicts came through.
We always maintained the moral high ground, knowing that we were on the right side of history as we fought for justice for George Perry Floyd Jr. Say his name.
George Floyd.
George Floyd's victory and America's quest for equal justice under the law will be intertwined. America, let's frame this moment.
And Greg, just explain for us how this case became such an emblematic case for the Black Lives Matter movement.
I think what we saw in this case, Joe, was the power and the potential of video evidence. In this case, at least in the first instance, video evidence of phones wielded by citizens, members of the public. Many of them, at least 3 of them, dutifully held and shot every second, 9 minutes and 29 seconds in all, of the period in which Chauvin pinned George Floyd unrelentingly to the ground, and that ultimately left him dead before the ambulance was able to arrive. And that evidence, supplemented by the police body-worn cameras, which are now a part of policing almost by default, certainly here, but spreading out across most of the 50 states. It's the standard and the norm now. But in capturing that moment, it, of course, to use the cliche, went viral, and a momentum built up in this George Floyd case. It brought Black Lives Matter as a movement to the fore in ways that, to be frank, previous police killings just hadn't quite got there. This one did, and I think the video evidence captured in all its brutality was a big part of that story.